Okay, so looking at creative inquiry and the two articles that were posted from week one, gonna pull some of my thoughts. It turns out when I started writing down or typing out sort of my thoughts to develop this post, all three things kind of go hand in hand. So even though they even one of them is pulled from Article Two, the other two are pulled from Article One, and so but they all kind of go hand in hand. First and foremost, talk about reproductive education versus creative inquiry. This is kind of a conversation, not with those specific terms, but this is kind of a conversation that's been going on for a long time in my life, in my particular situation, as I've went throughout the process of becoming a teacher. As a teacher, much of the curriculum and in class and coursework and everything that I've gone through, both as a student and then as a teacher, the process of learning how to become a teacher, dealt with a test-driven, and which I would consider a reproductive education, a test-driven circumstance, and that really isn't the way to go. But it is the way that it is in most places, including in here in Kansas, that's the way it's set up right now. I think that a lot of school districts and a lot of places are trying to manipulate their curriculum or change the way that they approach education and teaching at the high school, especially at the secondary level, because more information is coming out about how a test-driven education isn't the way to go. Creative inquiry is seen as a joyful process or collaboration and self-creation. I should mention that I'm pulling that information from the article Joy of Inquiry by Montori. Many have had a dull or unchallenging experience with education because they weren't driven by teachers towards creative inquiry. We were always driven towards, hey, here's a test. Here's the information that you should regurgitate and know, oftentimes the case was, hey, we need to do well on these tests because our school will receive funding for, your success, or as a teacher, they wouldn't, explicitly make comments like this, but having two parents as teachers, growing up in the early 2000s, I knew that they could receive benefits, or they could be seen in a brighter light, receive awards for having higher test scores in their classes if their students were achieving high standards. When you have those processes, I think achievement, and assessment is important, but when everything is driven towards a reproductive education and something in which you teach not creatively, you don't teach the inquiry, you don't teach some of those soft skills, you just teach information that is going to be on a test, you're missing the boat. And oftentimes what happens is you lose out on, and we not necessarily lose out, but we create the educational process to be a burden for some of our brightest and best potential, future professors, doctors, whatever the case may be. They don't enjoy the process because we haven't taught them how inquiry is a creative process. On the surface level, it can seem like a dry, mundane thing, but in fact, Montori states in the article, the ingredients of a foundational creative inquiry is wonder, passion, hope, and conviviality. Those things are all missing in a reproductive education, for the most part. That's just sort of my thoughts on that particular, and that thing, again, that comes up a lot for me as a teacher, and I hope, I've never actually taught in a classroom yet, in a classroom setting, other than in the gym. I'm a PE teacher, first and foremost, but I will be transitioning into the classroom a little bit this year. The next one, I'll make this brief. I'm already over my time, my 3 to 5 minute time frame. But that in Chapter 18, the creative inquiry and discovering the unforeseen, there is a comment made that goes hand in hand. Creativity is often blocked by teachers who focus on what you are doing wrong. We are expected to reproduce the information. Again, reproductive education, and that's referring to how oftentimes, and this isn't the case for all professors or teachers, but oftentimes we are limited, not by necessarily ourselves, but by what our superiors have directed us towards. And so I hope that in reading this and taking this and applying it, I hope that I can make sure that I'm not providing any beliefs or any systems that are self-limiting or that hinder creativity in any way. And this is very valuable information for me, again, as I step into the classroom and hope to try to be able to use some of these skills and some of these processes, such as creative inquiry, and hand that down, pass that down to students so that they enjoy their education, so that they get the most out of their education, and that they want to be more educated and want to go beyond the secondary level and hopefully achieve whatever level of education that they need to pursue their passions.